CNN has just obtained video of parents of children at the Robb Elementary School who were here during the shooting, in the aftermath. You can see their frustration as they are here trying to get in, as this is still going on. This video is, again, from Tuesday while this is all unfolding. I want to warn you that the video you're about to see, it is raw and it is difficult to watch. Here it is.
I think we'll do the newspaper.
All right, joining me now is CNN's Shimon Prokupecz. Shimon, I want to be clear about something. We don't know exactly where in the timeline this fits. However, what this does show us is something we have been hearing about. The parents were on the scene in despair, but also it does seem in frustration that they could not get inside to help their children.
Yeah, this is, it's just so hard to watch. And it's the screams and to listen to these parents. And now we, knowing what we know, what happened in there, I just can't imagine what these people were going through in those moments. We have seen reports that there were parents who were on scene hearing gunshots, and knowing that their kids were inside and they couldn't go in and do anything. But as to the video, it does appear, though, in that video that the police response is already there. There's a heavier police response. You're seeing sheriff's deputies. You're seeing other officers with heavily armed weaponry, right? It's what you would see in a kind of a situation like this. But like you said, John, we don't know how, what time this was taken and how far into the incident this was taken. But it's clear that it was still a very active scene, that they were still the police were still dealing with the situation. And I was talking to some city officials this morning about this, and they said that when a lot of the family members got here, they just wanted answers. They wanted to know what was going on, and no one could provide answers for them. And I'm just recalling that day and how long it took for the information to get out about what happened here. And these parents, this went on for hours, John. Remember, they went to the Civic Center where they were waiting to get notified about their kids, if their kids were one of the victims. And the hours and into the night that this went on, it's just it's gut-wrenching. It's just so hard to watch and so painful. And again, we are still waiting for so many answers here from the police.
What you can see is the sense of helplessness that these parents have. Parents who'd be willing to do anything, I guarantee you, willing to do anything to put themselves in the way of a shooter for their children right there. We don't know when this is, but Shimon, what we do know is there was a period of time, how long is unclear, but a period of time when law enforcement was on the scene in some number, and they were not going in to confront the shooter. And that's the period where there are still unanswered questions.
Right, that is that period, that hour or so of when the gunman is inside. There's still gunshots coming from there. There's an exchange of gunfire. What's not really clear is, the lieutenant told you this morning that those two officers were shot as they were either going into the school or by the door.
He made it sound like it was inside.
To me it certainly sounded like it was, how badly were these officers injured? They retreated, it seems. And we don't know the severity of their injuries. He did say they're non-life threatening. How were they shot? What was the situation here? But, where were the backup officers, and why weren't more officers in there already on scene? It's a small town, small police departments. I get all that, but those questions need to be answered.
Between the time when those officers were first met with gunfire and then the attempt that did ultimately break down the door, what was the nature of that pause between those two periods? That's what I'm trying to get at there. And it is during that period that we are now hearing stories about parents who arrived on the scene. The Washington Post spoke to Javier Casares, who is the father of Jacqueline Casares, who was killed here. And Javier told the Washington Post He says there were 5 or 6 of us fathers hearing the gunshots, and police officers were telling us to move back. We didn't care about us. We wanted to storm the building. We were saying, let's go, because that's how worried we were, and we wanted to get our babies out. So these fathers were willing to go in. Why were they stopped?
Right, I can tell you right now, as a father myself, I would want to go in too, but it's a volatile situation. You have an active shooter situation. We're trying to preserve any further loss of life. We cannot have, and as much as they want to go into that school, we cannot have individuals go into that school, especially if they're not armed. So we also have officers that arrive on scene. There's so many different components involved in an active shooter situation. We have officers that arrive on scene trying to set up a perimeter, so we cannot have any other individuals try to go into that school. But I understand, and I completely understand, because I can tell you as a father myself, I would want to go into that school whether I was armed or not armed to save my child. But again, it's a very volatile situation. There's so many components involved, a lot of unanswered questions, and that's what we're trying to provide by doing a thorough investigation.